there, welcome back. I'm Karen Hall, your host of the Hero Within podcast. I'm passionate about sharing inspiring true stories of unsung heroes who've overcome some of life's most challenging adversities. Come along with me and learn how you too can find hope and healing to return to love. Well, I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Kimberly Crowe. She is the host of Potapalooza and the owner. She also has Speakers Playhouse, and her background story is really fascinating. She was in the corporate world, and one day she decided, you know what, I'm really not happy here. But it was a pretty sweet deal, and she was, hesitant to give that up. But she came up with this philosophy that if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. And so has a very interesting story about how she left and how she started a new venture with her son. And so, Kimberly, if you could tell us some more about you and about your background, and I'll let you take it from there.
That sounds great, Karen. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to chat a little bit with you and give value to your audience and share a little bit about the story, because I think their stories, everybody has a story, and we've all had to overcome something to get where we are. Some of us are still going through story, and as much as we take the hero's journey, sometimes when you get to the end of the hero's journey, you got another one ahead of you as well. So no matter where you are on the hero's journey, keep the faith. You're going to come out the other side. It's going to be amazing. But yes, for me, my story might be very similar to some of the people in your audience. And when I was a youth, I actually was very inspired by sort of that other realm, right? My aunt was very much into like ESP and tarot card reading and tea leaf reading. She lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, so she had a little of that dynamic going for her. And when I would go and visit her, I would get some of that. And she would see I was her goddaughter, and she would say, "Oh, you take after me." And we had so much fun together when I was very, very young. And I could, reach into a deck and pull out the Queen of Diamonds. And I had all that sort of spirituality connection with the universe thing going on. And then I went off to school, right? And as you go through school, you go through the educational process, and went through, got fairly good grades. They were not stellar, but got fairly good grades. And then on the back end of that, I decided I wanted to go to college. And my parents were very encouraging of that. It was sort of expected in my family that you would continue that process. And I went to college and got a good job after college. My good job turned out to be working for a Fortune 1000 company and living the corporate lifestyle. I started at the bottom, and I got promoted and worked my way up. And after many, many years, I was there for 17 years. 15 of them were pretty good. The last two, not so much. I had spent a really long time climbing that corporate ladder, working my way up. And as I got to the top of the ladder, I realized that it was not even a ladder I wanted to be on. I was very good at what I did. I was an executive director by that point. And when I looked at my fellow executive directors and those at my level and above, I thought, wow, I don't want to grow up and be any of you people. I don't want to, they just seemed to be unhappy. They were miserable. They were unhealthy. They were angry about a lot of stuff, and they were taking it out oftentimes on their subordinates. They were angry and bitter and unhealthy, and many of them were divorced and just didn't seem like this is what I want out of my life, right? Not that there's anything wrong with any of those individual things, but I thought, wow, as a collective, is this really what I'm leaning toward? And it just doesn't seem fun anymore. And the spark had gone out of it, right? I had done the climbing. I had proven my worth. I'd done what I needed to do to get the check boxes. Good job, Kimberly. And then it just seemed pretty like an empty promise at the top. I was, however, making a lot of money. It was a good multiple six-figure income. And it was really hard to face that sort of in midlife, where you think, wow, is this really all that there is. And I'm making good money, so it doesn't really make sense for me to quit. But at the same time, I don't want to do it anymore. And it did take me about 2 years to successfully quit. I would put in a resignation, and then my spouse at the time would say, can you get your job back? Because he liked, he loved the idea of the money and the health insurance and all the different stuff that was part of that package, right? And he was very willing to help me find my next job, but that just didn't feel right either. Fortunately, like many of your listeners, perhaps, I had an entrepreneurship on the side. In fact, I've built many different entrepreneurships and sold a few of them. And so I knew that world, and I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Well, eventually I was successful in quitting. And I decided to start my own company full time instead of part time. And I was going to build it to $1 million. That was my goal. And I set about doing something. When I asked my friends and family, what should I do? I want to build a business that's going to go to $1 million. And they said, well, Kimberly, you were so good at what you did at corporate. Why don't you just do that? And Karen, I thought that's a great idea, right? I know the business. I know how to hire a team. I know how contracts work. I could probably find clients pretty quickly and easily that would trust me. I know all of how to do this. So I did. I built a business around what I knew how to do. And in 18 months, I generated over $1 million in revenue.
Whoa.
So I thought that would make me happy. But surprisingly, I was actually quite miserable. So when I was at corporate, I was in golden handcuffs. I was making so much money, it didn't make sense to quit. But when I had finally quit, I went and built myself a golden jail cell, because it was an entire business around what I did not want to do anymore. I'd already been there. I'd already done that. And yes, I was good at it, but I didn't think that I was supposed to be the person who died with that on her tombstone, right? Like, this is not all I am here to do, right? And I wasn't happy. And at that point, I had a typical crisis, right? And I told my staff, I'm not coming in. I'm going to go figure out what I need to do. And they ran the business for me for a while. And I went to a literal mountaintop to see if I could find the answer. And lo and behold, it was not up there. So I came back down defeated, and I walked into my house. And not only am I an entrepreneur, I'm also a mom. And my son met me at the front door. He said, Mom, I have a problem. And I thought, great, somebody else's problem to focus on instead of my own. Do you ever feel that way, Karen? Like, just anything else?
Totally. And it's so easy to help somebody else. But when it comes to us, sometimes we just get stuck.
You're so right. And I totally felt that way. So I asked him, what seems to be the problem? And he said, well, I'm 15 and a half and I'm going into summer. And I'm too young to get a summer job, because in the US, you have to be 16 to get a summer job at a company like Baskin Robbins or something like that. And he said, and I'm too old to go back to summer camp because I'm 15 and a half and that's boring and stupid now. So I thought, yeah, I get that. Plus, he said, I'm taller than all the camp counselors. And I thought, that's true. He's a big guy. So I was like, yes, that's true. So I said, you know what you're never too young or too old to do is be an entrepreneur. So why don't you and I take the summer and we'll create a business around something that you love doing, something that's just for fun. And he got really excited and he's like, can we do that? And I said, absolutely. Let's just have some fun together this summer. He was thinking about the money. I was thinking about what might look good on a college application. Together, we decided that we would start researching what a good entrepreneurship might be. And we put all the things he was good at and enjoyed doing into Google. And we typed in, like, what would make a good entrepreneurship for a teen who loves drama and improv and being on stage. He read books to kids at libraries. He did all these cool things, right? And up came this really cool idea to be an audiobook narrator. And he got very excited. He's like, can we get paid to do that? Like, I could get paid to tell stories. And I'm like, sounds like it. So we looked into it. We ordered some equipment online at Amazon. It came a couple of days later and we were off and running. We had so much fun, Karen. We had so much fun building a business around what we thought was fun that we got more business than we could handle. We got accepted on more books than we had time to read. We filled up our summer and beyond. And so what we decided to do is we literally had so much business we couldn't handle it all. So we decided to teach other people how to be an audiobook narrator. And the first thing that we did is we went to our local adult school and we like registered to teach a class, and it sold out the very first time. We didn't make much money at it because they don't pay those folks very well, we found out.
Right.
But we had a ball teaching together. And I thought, we should do this. We should teach online. Right. And so we started teaching and bringing in more people. And I thought, I love this. This is what life should be about. We should do what we love, not necessarily the one thing we're really good at. We should do what we love. And then I ran across this amazing Howard Thurman quote. Howard Thurman was a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. I had a dream, Martin Luther King Jr. He was a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, ask not what the world needs, ask what lights you up.
Oh,
Because what the world needs is more people who are lit up.
that
And
is such an amazing
chills.
quote.
It gives me chills to think about that. And I thought, that is what I needed so badly, right? I needed just to be lit up again. And so I love doing what I do now. I help people teach online. I teach online. I help other people learn how to do business online teaching. I actually teach in person as well and teach other people how to teach at in-person events. And I absolutely love it. I love being able to share my voice, my passion, my stories with the world, and have other people get inspired by them. So today, I'm an international, inspirational public speaker and a serial entrepreneur. I love what I do, and I help inspire other people to take on that and do that as well.
Well, I love it because it's so obvious that you are lit up. You just see you and you're just, full of light. And that is definitely something that drew me to you. And I'm sure that many other people feel the same feeling. And I think it's so interesting when when that light has dimmed. Maybe you were lit up, for a while in corporate. And I'm sure you were. I'm sure there were things that energized you. And paying attention to that feeling within you and that
Mm,
energy within you is so interesting because you felt it dimming over time and until it got to the point where you said enough. I need to do something else to bring back. And at that moment you weren't saying to be lit up, but you were thinking of that concept. And so many times that's scary, and I'm sure there
yes,
were some fears about your identity was kind of, involved in what
absolutely.
you had done and the fear of, I don't know if you had fear of money because you knew you were capable of earning it because you already were an entrepreneur, but there might have been, some fears and
Definitely fear around that. I mean, walking away from a steady paycheck and health insurance and that is not easy for a human being to do, especially when you remember loving it at one time way back then, like
yeah,
I remember it was fun at one time. Like I really did. I had 15 really fun years. And then
yeah,
the last two, it just wasn't me anymore. So I think people feel that. I think that's common where they've been doing something for a really long time. They got accolades, they got very good at it. They just don't feel the fire, the spark, the joy in it.
yeah,
And I think that's where everybody misses out on the other side as well. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have two teachers for parents. My stepdad and my mom were both teachers. And I remember them talking about fellow teachers who didn't love it anymore,
hmm,
who gave up. And they were just like, I'm just clocking in now to get my retirement. And they would talk about how sad that was, about how that it didn't benefit them, it didn't benefit the students. And maybe you had some of those teachers where they weren't in it anymore. They didn't love it anymore. And so I know that my mom's journey was similar actually to mine because she was a teacher and then she, was a fourth grade teacher. She was a kindergarten teacher, and then she was fourth grade. And she's like, I'm not sure I love this anymore. She went back and got her master's degree and her doctorate, started teaching at university, and just that enlivenment that I need to wake back up and be in love with this again because it's even it's better for you, it's better for them, it's better for everyone if you're alive and you.
Oh, it is so true. And what I think is so interesting is I think you hit on a key as far as when we're in in that mode of, okay, I know I'm not feeling, as energized and alive doing this thing. I think I want to do something different, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I go to that mountain and I'm still not quite getting, that inspiration that I'm seeking. But I think you hit on a key because when we can find a way to serve, I think that is part of
Ooh,
using our gifts that we came to earth with, then we are able to bless other people. And I think when we're aligned with that, I think that's one of the reasons. There's probably many reasons, but I think that's one of the reasons that we feel that energized and enthused feeling within us.
I agree with that. And I think that there's a phenomenon that happens that I've seen out there that you've just made me think of now. That when people love what they do, they think it's not valuable, right? When they love doing something like playing music, they may think like, oh, I can't, like, I have a dear friend who loves playing guitar. And he went, he could have been a fabulous guitarist in a band. And he was like, I'll never make money at that. It's too hard. People won't like, it's too difficult to do that. And well, I'm not discounting that. He went and got a sales job, right? So he works in sales and he kind of was like, okay, I can do that and it's fine. But he plays now on the side, and he plays in a band that he loves. He doesn't make much money at it, but he loves doing it. You can see he's lit up. And I think society was telling him, certainly his parents were telling him, that's not a real stable career. We don't know if you can get, you certainly can't get health insurance with it. You can't get, like, what are you going to do for real? What are you going to do that's really going to be your job? How are you going to make money and buy a house? And I think we get kind of caught up in other people's stories that lead us away from what we truly love doing.
That is so true because so many times we do hear those, even society, it doesn't even have to be like somebody that's directly saying it to us, but we hear those things in society. To be successful, you need to do XYZ.
Yeah.
And I think that was interesting how what gave you that momentum to I think in your life was just, serving your son. How can I help my son?
Yeah.
And when you helped him, you felt that fire within you again, and then that just branched out, even more. And so when you have felt, um in other realms in your life, when you have felt that light dim, what have you done?
Ooh, I don't know. I think, Karen, honestly, I think it takes a while to even recognize that it has dimmed,
Yeah.
right? That you hang on to that. We'll use the same analogy that for 15 years, it was really good. And those last two, I keep thinking, like, what am I doing differently? How can I make it good again? How can I recreate that fun that it used to be? And why isn't it? And what's wrong with me that it's not good anymore, right? And I think we blame ourselves and try and recreate. Now, that could be in a job, but it could also be in a marriage, right?
Mhm.
Or in a relationship with your family, your parents or your kids. Like, what am I doing differently that I should recreate this and try to reignite, right? And yes, we can take responsibility for that, but also taking responsibility for our own happiness in whatever relationship we're in, whether that's with another person or a company or a child or a parent, whatever relationship we're in, taking responsibility for, I need to make me happy. And honestly, everybody else becomes happier around you when you're happy, right?
So
We
true.
don't want
It's
to be around miserable people that are really struggling, right? So as soon as I stepped out of, I'm super unhappy in this situation and walked into, how can I make myself happy? I'm not gonna lie, it was not an overnight change because there was a lot of dread in there. I'm not sure it's gonna work. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. Am I ever gonna make the money I made before? And yes, spoiler alert, yes, I made that and more, significantly more than I was making at corporate, which is wonderful to know. But it's also that it surrounds, like, we have to make ourselves happy. And if we're not happy, we're in charge of figuring out where the happiness is and what to do to get it. And it may be walking away from something that previously gave us happiness so that we can find what gives us happiness today. I know a lot of people, Karen, get caught up in what's my purpose in life, right? What's my purpose? What am I here for? And I recently was working with a coach and I was teasing, saying, people find their purpose, but your purpose at 16 is way different than your purpose at 30. And your purpose at 30 is way different than your purpose at 40 and 50. And your purpose at 40 and 50 is probably going to be way different than it is at 80, right? Like you're not going to want to be like hustle, hustle, hustle at 80, right? It's going to be different. And so how do we reconcile that? How do we know what our purpose is in life? And he just said to me, well, I know you, Kimberly, and your purpose is probably just to have experiences. And your experiences are designed to be shared. And I was like, oh, that lets me off the hook, right? Now all I have to do is have experiences and share them with others. And I thought, this is beautiful. And wouldn't that be amazing if that was all of our purpose, is to have an experience and then share it with others? I think that's just such a delight.
It is such a delight. And because I think, I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things is when I learn something. And that's
Yeah.
when my light comes on. Is like, learn this thing, especially if I've been struggling with it, like I've
Yes.
been trying to figure out, how to, well, one of the things I struggle with is when my emotions escalate, how to be present in the moment and how to
Ooh,
be curious, because my emotions are escalated. I can't even remember that I want to be curious.
yes.
And so as I go through experiences and I learn, baby step by baby step, little things that work for me to help me, I get so excited and I can't wait to help other people. And that's what I do. And on the podcast, so many people share, their learning journey and the things that have helped them. And I wonder if you've had some paradigm shifts in your life, or some turning points where you were struggling about learning something, maybe about you, that you learned besides, having fun.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I struggled with was teaching others, because when you take on the responsibility of teaching others, you feel that imposter syndrome, right? So I had just learned to be an audiobook narrator, and I was like, I don't know, I haven't been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it for 3 months. Like I just figured this out, right? And to take on the I can teach this to other people is really intimidating, right? To say, well, do I have the qualification? What if they ask me how long I've been doing this? What if they ask me like something I don't know? What if I don't know as much as somebody else who's been doing this for 20 years? And I want to give your audience reassurance, because I know, Karen, you already know this, but if you are struggling with that imposter syndrome, I'd like to take you down a little journey. When you were in kindergarten and you didn't know where to put the lunch pail and you didn't know what to do next, your best friend was the second grader who knew where to put the lunch pail and knew where to sit at lunch and how to line up, and how, like, that was your new best friend. It wasn't the principal. It wasn't the noon duty aide. It wasn't somebody who'd been doing it for 15 years. It was somebody who was just a little bit ahead of you that could give you a hand up. I could learn a lot from Tony Robbins, but I can also learn a lot from my friends who just got inspired by Tony Robbins by watching one episode by him, right? I could get inspired by Brendan Burchard by being one of his students, or I could learn from other people who have learned from him, right? So there are a lot of people who you can help just by being one or two steps ahead of them and helping them overcome those one or two steps. So I feel like when we get caught up in the I'm not worthy, I don't have enough knowledge, I'm not there yet, one day I'll be good enough to be able to do that. Take the plunge and think in terms of, I know a little bit that I've learned that I can share with others. I can share my experience with others and they can learn a little bit from me. They'll know a little bit more just because I can share with them my experience.
Oh, that is so good, because that imposter syndrome is it's so prevalent. I think, I don't know if it's as prevalent with men as it is with women, but or maybe it's just because I talk to women so much, but I think that's so real, and it
Yeah.
is so detrimental in holding us back from using those gifts, that we've been given, and feeling like I'm not enough, to be able to use those gifts
Yes.
and in this way or
Yeah.
that way. And yeah, so I might play the guitar for myself or my family, but I might not
Right.
I might not use that gift in any other way. And so how would you recommend that a person like did you ever feel imposter syndrome besides the with the audiobooks? Did you ever feel that in any other realm in your life?
Oh gosh, yes. Now I teach all the time. So all kinds of different things give me imposter syndrome. I'm a public speaker, and people say, I don't want to do public speaking. I'm afraid of being judged. And I'm like, yeah, yes, you're being judged 100% of the time when you're on stage, but you're being judged no matter where you go, right? You're being judged. I'll just share a funny story. I used to buy all of my shoes at like Famous Footwear, right? Like I was like, nobody really looks at shoes. Nobody looks at shoes. And I went with a girlfriend, and she talked me into, when I was making great money working a corporate job, she talked me into going to like a fancy shoe store and buying shoes, right? So we go shopping, and I'm like, well, I don't know whether I want these $200 pair of shoes or these $200 pair of shoes. I never bought a $200 pair of shoes in my life. I mean, the most I'd ever spent was like $29. So I didn't know what we were getting into. She goes, you have enough money. You need to buy both of those right now. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I should just choose one. So she talked me into it. We bought two pair of shoes. And the next day in the elevator, I got compliments on my shoes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then for the next, like every time I wore either pair of shoes for weeks and months, I would get compliments. Wow, those are great. Oh, I love your shoes. And I was like, I guess people do look at my shoes, and they've been judging me all along. And they were just too nice to say anything about it, right? Like they just never said, like, and now that I'm wearing these shoes, people are like, wow, great shoes. So suddenly I felt this terrible amount of judgment that had been over me for the last 30 years of my life that I was like totally unaware of. And it sort of rained down on me. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I've been judged all along. So yes, I think when you have that feeling of I'm being judged, it's Brene Brown said it so well. She said, you can maybe get past I'm not good enough. If you can get past that one, the next one is right around the corner. Who the hell do you think you are? And I thought, oh, that's so true. Because just as we get our courage up and we're like, I'm good enough to do that, then somebody like in the back of our mind is like, who do you think you are to be teaching this to other people? Right? Like, oh no, now we got to go past that one too. And the imposter syndrome is the thing that holds us back from shining our light. Now, if I'd been stymied by all of those, I would still be in this other company working for a job that I didn't really like. Maybe I wouldn't be bitter and old and sad and unhealthy and miserable, but I I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have stepped into that light. And all of the people that I help now wouldn't have gotten the help that they need.
Yeah.
So the courage to be able to step out and do what you really want to do is difficult to step into, but it's so worth it on the other end. It's so worth it. Do what you love. And if it's not fun, it's not worth doing.